Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Hipster Podcast. This is your host, Jamil Hassan, the Crypto Hipster, where I interview founders, entrepreneurs, co-founders, executives, thought leaders globally in crypto and blockchain. And I was going to say all around the world too, but that means globally. Today, I have an amazing guest. She was the International Woman of the Year, the Atlanta Chamber. She's an acclaimed brand strategist. She's an investor. She's an NFT speaker. She is the founder of and CEO of Local Choice Inc. Her name is Pixie Paula Dezzutti. Pixie Paula, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
You're very welcome. So I'm glad you're here, and let's kick things off, shall we? With the first question I ask pretty much everybody is this one: what is your background, and is it a logical background for what you're doing now?
You know, if I look at just at the NFT space part of it, I might say, oh yeah, actually all my friends and my colleagues and peers say, of course it's a logical background. Don't you remember you came off of Wall Street and you were doing all this? My friends will go back to saying, let's not forget high school when you forced us as vice president to each put in an extra nickel every week so that we could get a bump up in a savings account at our bank account. And I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. So I'd say, yeah, looking at innovative ways to get a better bang for your buck financially was always in my repertoire. I started my first business when I was 9 years old. So I had to bring my mother to an Avon meeting, and I wasn't old enough. You had to be 18. And I begged her and said, I know how to do this. I could do this. So she literally signed me up. I just got like my 40-year pin, revealing how old I am. And then I lost a few years because they wouldn't give me those years under my belt while it was in her social security name. So I felt so cheated, even as a child entrepreneur. But my background is in finance and real estate development. And while building 5-star golf resorts around the United States, I tumbled into being asked as a consultant to look at the viability of an alcohol company and said, yeah, this will never work for me. I put ice in my red wine. How am I going to be a disruptor in the multi-trillion-dollar space? And they said, well, you know everything about the IRS and taxation, and really that's what the 3 and 4 tier distribution system is, running our beverages. So go check it out. And actually, I fell in love with the industry. And I looked at the fact that bourbon had a 400% annual return. And I said, I'm over here selling cable partnerships and convincing people that cable is going to be a real thing and what the future lies in for liquid assets. I said, this is truly the only asymmetrical investment in the marketplace. Why is no one regarding this as a true asset class? So I ended up in spirits. And then, of course, NFTs hit the marketplace. And I said, this is a perfect way to capitalize laying down barrels, which is the struggle for everyone in the spirit space that's looking at the value proposition of aging any kind of spirits. And I created the first NFT in the spirit space. And I'll tell you, it would have happened 2 years earlier, but I could not get anybody to understand how I was trying to merge this investment, this true liquid asset, with an asset-based opportunity in an NFT. Long answer to, I don't know. It seemed like it was a long way around the rodeo, but I ended up in the same spot.
Your clients needed those 2 years to understand what NFTs were.
It's true.
I look at it that way, you know. So you have a you are. I want to find this out from you. What is your definition of the modern woman, and why should modern women embrace blockchain technology?
It could not be more apropos that we're having this conversation, because I just spent the weekend in Atlanta doing the second Skirt conference. So I own Skirt magazine, which is celebrating its 30th year next year as the first women's empowerment magazine. And we have shifted over the years from being lifestyle and homekeeping and networking to really a structure of what I say, Skirt Smarts financial recommendation, which is that 90% of women will be 100% alone at some point in their lives. Are they 100% financially ready? And so 3 days locked up with a room full of people to really explore and take away the fear of their entry into the crypto market and understanding NFTs and tokens and blockchain and what I just say as smart contracts and the way of the future. And I believe that the true modern woman should just not be afraid to engage or tip her toes into anything that delights her imagination because the resources are there. More importantly, there's a network for supporting resourcefulness. So they can just jump into anything that they want. There's really no excuses. I also caution the modern woman to recognize that there's no one inside her driving that bus except her. So there's no excuses, no victimization, no challenging circumstances that can't be overcome. She has to own it and want it and will manifest it.
Yeah, I'm looking at your statistic and I'm thinking, you know, I've had a few heart attacks. I've had a couple operations of Sloan Kettering, and my wife, good chance. I mean, she's healthy. Good chance she'll outlive me. You know, and getting ready might be like a scary thing, right? Um, so so why should they, even if they don't feel like they are alone now, why should they prepare in case that does happen? Because it might, and especially like in my case, it might. Don't want it to, but hey, what are your thoughts there? Why should they prepare?
Well, it's kind of archaic to really assume that somehow that the man is responsible for managing the finances, right? And it's interesting because if we go back far enough before the Industrial Revolution, the woman was actually really responsible because the man was out managing the farm or toiling in war. And it wasn't until the exchange of property came into being that men started really being the guardians of the financial purses. And then because of war, women did start to have to hit the marketplace and generate some revenue. But let's face it, in all industries, most of them were started by women, but men controlled the lending pocketbooks. And so even if you were an industrious woman who decided to build a big business, you still had to go to a man to finance it because they were controlling the financial purse strings. So those constraints don't really exist anymore. I'm not saying in real application they're non-existent because they most certainly are. You still have to fight for your right to freedom, right? You still have to fight for your right to get what you want, but it is much more of a level playing field. The internet and our access to information has taken away some of the barriers to entry for women to get access to what they need in the marketplace. Like I said, the resources are there. They now must be resourceful. But given the statistics of women outliving men, given the statistics of women are 51% of the population or more in some areas, there's no excuses to not be financially responsible for your own personal well-being. We're individuals. We might get married, we might have a plan, but we also know that 60 to 75% of marriages end in divorce. So just in normal circumstances, you really have to own that. And with women developing careers, by the way, and marrying later in life or not getting married at all, those social taboos about needing to be married to have children or to, be developed in the world. No, that's all out the window. So it's more important now. Unfortunately, we're not teaching in grade school the management of money to anybody. And that is something that I am very committed to doing with the onset of now the mini skirt. We're trying to reach women at a much younger age. We don't teach entrepreneurial skills in grade school. We do some schools have made introductions in high school, but there's still no straight up, how do you build a business classes? You're out there finding it out on your own.
Yeah, especially personal finance. I mean, I got a master's degree in finance, and then, but what I learned many years, and I worked for insurance company. I worked for AIG and other insurance companies, and I learned what I learned a few years ago was that didn't prepare me at all for personal finance. It's a different game, you know. But the mini skirt and all that, leads into diversity, right? How do you and what are the challenges too of building these diversity brands?
It's it's challenging because if as women specifically, I built the first diversity brands in the spirits business. I put the first African American on the cover of Skirt magazine. I Now we talk about diversity, especially in beverage, but it doesn't exist in reality. We'll force from a commercial application or from a social acceptance application that the big boys will talk about the fact that they're giving credence to women in a space, but not truly. I mean, they may be embracing their talents and their skills, but there are still not enough women out there controlling the multi-trillion-dollar alcohol industry. Less than 1/10 of distilleries worldwide are owned by women. And I own 4. So that's skewing the numbers just to begin with. But do you realize how tiny a number that is? That's globally. There's only a little over 2,000 craft distilleries in the United States as it is. So it's still a small industry, a male-dominated industry, and the big boys control the majority of this multi-trillion-dollar industry. So that's why it's hugely capital intensive, and it requires 24/8, I say, work to build a brand and to have something unique. Heck, the celebrities don't do it even well. 99% of celebrity brands fail. So if they haven't even been able to crack the marketplace, you have to recognize that it's not just about the vanity or the integrity or the visibility of the partners or the artists. It's really about the chokeholds in the distribution system. And so it's not like we can just easily deliver or airdrop bottles of alcohol to somebody at their front door. That doesn't exist. Like, you're not Amazoning liquor. It probably will very shortly, but right now there's still that barrier. And so it's hard for the diversity players to really get a foothold and have the acceptance. Hey, I could say, let me ask you this question. If I said to you, I walk into the Outback Group, okay, which owns Carrabba's and Bonefish Grill, right, a couple of places, and said, hey, how many woman-owned spirits businesses are on your bar? Well, they probably can't even answer the question because they have no idea if there's a woman owned, but I can guarantee you're going to go down and you're going to see Tito's and Jack Daniels and Belvedere, Grey Goose, right? You're going to see major monopolies and male dominated marketplace control. They own the real estate. I could say, did you realize that there are discrimination laws in the United States that say that since I'm presenting you a product that is super premium, that has beat these products in numerous taste tests, and also is at a value price, and it also, so is there some reason you won't consider putting me on your shelf? Then how do they look at you? Right? Now you're leveraging the rules, but now you get called the names. So it's like we don't even get to enforce the things that would actually clear the shelves to allow us to play. And I'm like, yeah, well, no kidding. Those big boys are already there. They got there way ahead of the game. But it's like any other industry. I'm a single mom. I have to support my children and my grandchildren. I'm a family run business. I still need a break and a chance and an opportunity. It's really challenging.
I agree. I agree. I've written 82 books, and my local libraries won't let me put any of them in the library. So I understand the challenge. But something that you did, that's really important here, we want to get into, is you put alcohol on the blockchain, right? So what are the benefits, both for your business and for society, of doing that?
One, it gives me the opportunity to have conversations about the blockchain that would otherwise not have been had, right? Because I'm marrying the fact that it's an interesting conversation that this asset, this true liquid asset, has a huge rate of return. And no matter what happens economically throughout the history of the United States, prohibition, temperance movement, the 15-Gallon Act, all the restrictions and constraints put in to prohibit the consumer from getting access to alcohol went afoul. It just didn't work, right? So here we have the opportunity to join these two conversations to say it's interesting to have two disruptive mechanisms where the government is trying to control how the outliers, get embraced in traditional society and how we use these technological applications to govern the way we do business moving forward. And we get to unite them. So I love the fact that there were lots of people thinking about this. Again, probably not 2 years ago when I was really trying to talk to everybody and they said I was smoking crack, trying to figure out how do we use the blockchain to start building and developing the support of laying down barrels. But shortly after I launched, the big boys came out with their own versions of NFT. So I just happened to get there first. I would have gotten there way first if I could have gotten people to understand what I was trying to do. But we didn't even have a lot of people at that point that understood how to even mint an NFT or how to be able to bring it to fruition. And so it was challenging. I took the first barrel of bourbon ever made in South Carolina and created the opportunity to say, I'll create an individual 111 NFTs that represent the 111 bottles that'll come out of this barrel. And now you could own the first barrel, right? So again, I'm giving asset-based validation to the NFT. And then I launched an artist contest to be able to get the artist who would be able to make this happen. Because I said, back to my skirt case, I'm like, okay, if I'm going to build the opportunity for somebody to get recognized as putting the first NFT on the blockchain in the spirit space, let's build an artist as well. So this is about, it takes a village and give all this community recognition. So people came together and literally right before we launched, I said, if we don't do this right now, we're going to lose the opportunity. We are going. And I'm so committed to numbers and numerology, and they mean a lot to me. So on 11/11, which is my portal magic number, Pixie Magic 11/11, I said, we're going. And we went from concept to waiting list in 1 hour. So it was really exciting. I had an amazing team at BarrelFi, which is the company that we launched to create this. And my two partners, Josh and Mark, they were trailblazers. They just said, we are going to figure this out and we are going to get it done. So I couldn't have done any of it without them. And, divine timing, it all happened at the right time. But now it's opened up the opportunity to speak at numerous NFT conferences, blockchain conferences, and to bring down to basics. What does the blockchain really mean? What are NFTs truly? What are smart contracts? What's going to happen with tokens? And my book, Alphabet Soup, is coming out shortly. And I'm excited about that because it does break this down in little bite-sized nuggets. And what I try to do is create metaphors of things that have already transitioned in the past so that you could easily identify with what's really happening in the present by looking at times in the past to see, how did we move out of Polaroid cameras and into a digital iPhone? How did we move from, is it real or is it Memorex, and into digital identifiers? So I just break it down in Alphabet Soup. We call it the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s of all the acronyms in crypto. So please, I hope the listeners will look for that Alphabet Soup book, because it definitely talks a lot about my journey into this space, but also how to embrace it so that you can hopefully make some aha moments and go, oh, now I get it.
Awesome. I think that's awesome. Especially, getting it to a level that everybody can understand and run with. That's great, and hopefully, more business owners like you can be the champions of NFTs and not just the celebrities, as you said. What lessons will they be able to learn from your book and from you that will help them grow their businesses?
One, I'd say don't even call them NFTs anymore, because it got a bad rap with everything that's going out in the marketplace. And it's not about the NFT. It's not about digital artwork. Yeah, there's a marketplace for that. I think that day has come and gone, but it's more about the smart contract or the smart technology that's underlying our abilities to utilize that technology to operate commerce in a way that's much more easily accepted, embraced, and honestly, I wouldn't want it any other way. If you were, here's an example. Most people now easily, if they don't do it, they're aware that you can take a picture of a check and deposit it into your bank account using your phone, right? There's a whole lot of trust going on in that transaction, that check is not forged, that check is made out to you, that check has not been deposited somewhere else, that your camera is going to work, that your bank is actually going to have utilized the technology that uploads that image and makes an exchange for real goods and deposits that into your checkbook. There's a whole lot that goes on using that. If this check is real, then that deposit in my bank account is also real. And so if you think about the fact of that just being a remedial example of blockchain and technologies and an NFT, then you can see, oh yeah, we need to perfect this so that we can help drive economy quicker and faster. Now, do I want to go drive to the bank and either go in and stand in line at a teller's or sit in a drive-through for 20 minutes? Nope, don't want to do that. Do I want to then get a hold placed on my check for 5 days while they figure out if that check is good or not? Nope, I don't want to do that. Well, those things still exist because we're not fully integrated into blockchain. Once we are, and once people understand that NFTs, which really, again, let's just call them contracts that guarantee that the transaction that's happening is actually what's meant to be happening, and that there's no fraud around it and there's no chance for error. That's the utilization of what these contracts really mean and how they're going to help us move into a graceful future. Because right now it's rocky. I don't know about you, but I run 13 corporations. I move large checks from one company to another. And when I get Wells Fargo and Truist in a bank war, and they both want to hold on to two of my checks for 7 to 10 days, and maybe these could be totaling $1 million, I'm immobilized. And I'm thinking, you gotta be kidding me. And we're talking bank checks. We're not even talking personal checks. Okay, that is so rudimentary right now and archaic. Like, no, we need the advancement. We need it.
I agree. I have to go to the bank to anytime that my wife writes me a check, because if I put it online, Wells Fargo puts a 3-week hold on it. So I can't do that. So I have to go to the bank. So I would love to be able to trust that their system works.
That's the whole idea about the blockchain, right? It's supposed to be trustless. Trust no one. Here is immutable evidence that's ready to move.
Yeah, I agree. So I want to shift gears a little bit, because we talked before we podcast. We talked a little bit. I'm in Connecticut. You're from Connecticut. You're now in South Carolina, and you're also, in addition to running these companies, in addition to being a business owner and entrepreneur, you are also heavily involved with faith in the community. And I want to find out how you marry this intangible technology, right, with a practicing faith, and how you bring those two together in your life.
It's really funny that you would ask that, because if you look at the definition of spirits, I say we're not creating spirits, we're creating inspiration. And I will be honest with you, when I got asked to come and consult in this business, and I came kicking and screaming because I couldn't reconcile it in my own head. I'm like, oh yeah, I told you, I put ice in my red wine. I am not the person to disrupt the alcohol industry. But I had a dream. And I know it sounds really bizarre, but I had a dream. And in the dream, it was revealed to me that I could make a significant change in the industry, and that I create a program called Pour It Forward, which we now call Sip and Share, and give $2 a bottle back for any of the products that are purchased in conjunction with an education program, a community event, a nonprofit event, that I would be leveraging and supporting the bar. And if you think about it, all of the nonprofits typically have one annual gala that's the sole source or the majority source of their fundraising mechanisms. And they ask everybody to pay $250 to put on a black tie and a beautiful dress and come to this event where they have music and dancing. And what do? You get out of the car and you go to the bar. And in the name of charity, you meet with all your friends, you have lots of cocktails. If there was no bar there, you would fall apart, right? But no one is leveraging the bar. And I said, if we could create an ongoing fundraising mechanism that bar was generated outside of these four walls all year long, and you exchange brand loyalty for that $2 per bottle, then with celebration, we could create prosperity. We could give new meaning to let's drink responsibly. Instead of it meaning, oh, let's not get behind the wheel of a car while we're totally smashed drunk and kill somebody. Yes, that's a given. But if you're really drinking responsibly, you're letting your voice count, especially in something that's potentially a vice industry. I don't want to go too much into the vices because you can't control what people do. But as we talked earlier on this call, not even the government could get people to stop drinking. So that exists all in of itself. I'm not going to do anything about the consumption issues. However, in the middle of that, and that's where my faith comes. Jesus had to dine with the taxpayers and sinners, right? Is a saying that's pretty renowned and well accepted. For why? Because you have to leave your own neighborhood, you have to leave your backyard, and you're not doing any good unless you're educating the all. And so I'm having conversations about Holy Spirits, and we literally have a priest, a monk, and a rabbi that bless our spirits. And I pray. I don't have to say I'm praying for you, I'm praying for you, I'm praying for you. I'm praying over these spirits, and as they move out, Reverend Masaru Emoto proved that through the power and intention of prayer, you can turn dirty water into clean water. That is well-documented science, and you can see his crystallization in action in the Concourse C of the Atlanta airport. If you look up Masaru Emoto's studies, he proved, and it's been proven over and over again, that the power intention of prayer can transform a body of water. So what are our spirits, our beverages, our wine? 90% water. You start with the water. In fact, the marketing with all these brands is, it's the limestone water from the mountains, or it's the melted water from the glaciers, or it's the Polish water that's trickling over the limestone down on a train and across a Swan Lake. It's all about the water. Okay, great. I'm like, then let's create holy water. I know it's corny, but that's what I'm doing. Because otherwise, why did I get put here? But I want to tell you one more thing that I had to reconcile this with. If you think about there's a book, right? The Greatest Story Ever Told. It's about the life of Jesus Christ. Regardless of your faith or your affiliation, inarguably, the story of Jesus Christ has lasted on the planet for over 2,000 years. Okay? I'm not going to argue that fact. It's fact. Now, in fact, our whole BC-AD, our whole time system is constructed over BC, right? AD, before Christ, Anno Dominion, after Christ. All right, great. That's a proven. Well, what if, in the birth of Jesus Christ, it was a reality show series? Let's liken it to a reality show series of today. Then you've got this omniscient producer, I'm going to call him God, this example, who hires an executive producer, I'm going to call her Mary in this example, and says, okay, we want a show that's going to last more than a pilot. It's got to last 2,000 years. We need to get thousands of seasons out of this. We got to come up with a storyline that for this big reveal, it's going to be amazing. Everybody's going to be talking about it. Longest running reality series ever. And they get their heads together and they come up with an idea. And executive producer Mary says, I know, we'll have a virgin birth. We'll have a virgin birth. We'll bring the reality of this character. His name will be Jesus. And we'll have his big reveal, the big reveal of Jesus on the planet. Okay, was it parting the Red Sea? No. Was it restoring sight to the blind? No. Was it raising Lazarus from the dead? No. What was the big reveal that this entire executive team came up with for introducing this character who is going to survive as the greatest test pilot of all reality series of all time? Jesus, virgin birth. And what did he do? What was his very first miracle? Turning water into wine of the Feast of Canaan. And so I look at that and I say, oh my gosh, there could have been anything that was selected, but that's the first recorded miracle, right? Now, am I going to argue with an omniscient God to say, yeah, that shouldn't have been the reveal? You should have had Jesus do one of those other things first. No, that's what started the miracle and the conversation and the buzz about the life of Jesus. So if that was craftedly picked from God the Almighty Father, the fact that I would then, in a dream, be instructed that I want to use your mouthpiece, Miss Pixie Paula, in the middle of our challenged world to have conversations about miracles and magic and togetherness, then I'm not going to do that in anything less powerful than in the middle of these potential vice industries, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And that's where I'm sharing my story. That's my pulpit.
Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. Yeah, I was involved in the consumption industry for a long time, and I've been not get involved in the consumption industry for over 2 decades. So I have a healthy respect for alcohol, and I know that I can't drink. So, um, you know, that's why I'm like, I wanted to tackle this interview because it's been something I've avoided talking about. Well, not avoid talking about, but the vice side. You know, um, there are organizations for people like me. So
I have a dream and I say one day I will have done my job if I know that Mothers Against Drunk Drivers and AA, Alcohol Anonymous, can actually embrace what I'm doing within the space. But like right now, I'm putting together a pink grapefruit gin project with a very well-renowned group that will soon be revealed. And our whole thing is about raising awareness to cancer. So you get on a Delta plane right now and you can see the pink lemonade that is being served with some other kinds of alcohol as an opportunity for a cocktail. And I'm like, let's create a pink grapefruit gin and do the same and raise awareness, because I guarantee you those other spirits companies are not interested in doing what I'm doing. One woman every 12 minutes in the United States dies of breast cancer. Again, we're going to have conversations. We're not going to skirt it under the rug or don't skirt the issue, right? These are the conversations we need to have. So the pulpit and the platform is maybe around having a cocktail. Okay. But if the people are at the bar, there's no good for me to be sitting home on a podcast. I got to go walk right into the bar. I got to talk to them. I have to have conversations, but at least I have raised the awareness of these issues.
and I applaud you for that. Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah. I know other people can drink. I can't, but that doesn't mean that I also can't be out there sharing the message that,
Voice is counted no matter what. I don't drink either. It's so funny. We're a family-run business. My kids don't even drink. Like, this is not about the drink, right? Again, it's not about the spirits. It's about the inspiration. But I'm not going to stop consumption. What I can at least do is introduce conversation during consumption that makes people take pause. And again, gives the argument for let's drink responsibly.
I love it. Thank you. It's been great. I love talking to you. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I could talk about that topic all day. But I have one last question, and I want to thank you very much for your time today. And my last question is really simple: is this? How can people find out more information about you, about your company, about what you do? How can they get a copy of your upcoming book? How can they do any of that?
I appreciate that. So Pixie Paula Official, you can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on most of the Discords, dashboards. If you Google just Pixie Paula, it should come up with ways to get a hold of me. My companies are Skirt Magazine, the Striped Pig Distillery, Local Choice Spirits, the Mad Rabbit Distillery in Colorado. We just closed on a deal in Alabama, the Alabama Distilling Company, the Stash House, Commit Good, Sycamore Biopharma, which we didn't talk about today, but I also am the leading cannabis, technology-driven wellness company using cannabinoids and other natural plant medicines for the prevention and restoration and cure of diseases, which is another area that is so heavily researched and completely has amazing information that does not get out to the consumer because of the chokehold of regulations and taxation. And so, yeah, just Pixie Paula Official. I post almost everything on Instagram first. And then on Facebook, my personal page is Paula Dezzutti. But it's pretty easy to find me. We are getting a reality show, though. That is coming out soon. And then, of course, look for that book. I think it's got some great insight.
Awesome. Thank you so very much for your time today.
Thank you.